I'm going to switch gears quickly. We're bringing on political strategist Trip Yang. We are going to discuss a few different things. First of all, Trip, thank you so much for coming on.
Good evening. It's always a pleasure to be here on Fox 5 with the team and the great Meredith Gorman.
Oh, thank you. We love having you. All right. So special elections going on tonight. We'll start there. I mean, what are you watching for tonight in these special elections, and why should New Yorkers care?
Yeah, so right now, as we speak, is the election. There's a few more moments of polls. They close at 9 o'clock. This is for Zohran Mamdani's assembly seat over in Queens. As we know, Zohran Mamdani, he got promoted. New Yorkers chose to vote for him. Over 1 million New Yorkers voted for him to become mayor a few months ago. And now there is a critically important state assembly seat based in Astoria, Queens, that's open. Of course, there's 4 candidates. I would say the 2 frontrunners are Diana Marino as well as Rana Abdelhamid. And it's important because each assembly district represents over 130,000 New Yorkers. Right now, the big question mark is, how is the state of New York going to fund all the social services? Of course, the state of New York has an over $200 billion annual budget that funds law enforcement, education, funds the various municipalities and counties across our state. And this seat is one of 150 assembly members that vote on the state budget and pass state legislation. So very important seat. Election is going to be determined tonight, and we'll know results very shortly after 9 p.m.
Right. And in this 36th Assembly District in Queens, that area that used to be represented by Mamdani, would you say is this vote about carrying on his progressive approach, or do you think voters are more focused on the day-to-day local issues?
Mm-hmm. So all of these candidates in this seat are progressive. All of them have identified at various points as being democratic socialists themselves. This seat that once again was once held by Zohran Mandani is one of the most left-wing seats in all of New York State. So it makes sense that all of the candidates here are pretty progressive. Now, there's not much ideological differences here. All of them do agree with the mayor's affordability agenda. It is really, in a race like this, in a special election like this, about turning out your bases. Who are your base supporters? Those folks who would run through a wall for you as a candidate, turning them out. Someone like Diana Marino has the formal endorsement of DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. Someone like Rana Abdelhamid has been very active in community, been very vocal in turning out so many of the growing Muslim and South Asian populations and Arab American populations. So in a special election like this, there's not that much ideological differences. They're all progressive. They've all identified as democratic socialists. They've all identified as allies of the new mayor. It is about turning out their base of supporters.
Right. And going off of that, I mean, turnout is always tricky in special elections. How much does this, does the way that these candidates were chosen, through party committees, not necessarily primaries, change who shows up to vote?
So special elections are notoriously difficult to predict. You can assume that special elections, on average, have lower turnout than a general election in November or a Democratic primary in June. In this special election in February, Diana Marino is running on the Democratic Party line. The Democratic County Organization decided to support her. So the other candidates needed to petition and get on their own ballot line. In Rana Abdelhamid's case, is petitioning to get on. She had petitioned to get on the Queens for All party line. But ultimately, what special elections really are about is turning out your base of support. Fundraising was very important. Spending resources on direct mail, on digital ads, on voter contact. You have to turn out your base of supporters because turnout is going to be lower than it is in a Democratic primary or in a November general election.
And we always hear about unions and grassroots groups. In races like this, can they still move the needle, especially with a lower voter turnout?
Unions do matter. Many of the labor unions have endorsed Diana Marino, but Rana Abdelhamid has a lot of strong endorsements as well, from the overlapping Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez. She's very influential, to the overlapping city council member Julie Wan. So both Diana and Rana have some strong endorsements here. It is going to be based on which campaign can turn out their supporters to vote.
And do nights like this one tell us anything bigger about the political mood in New York City, or would you say they're more just very local, one-off races?
Yeah, I would say some races do tell us about the local mood, right? I do believe in neighboring New Jersey, the congressional race to fill Mikey Sherrill. Now she's been ascended to governor of the state of New Jersey. That tells us a lot about the state of New Jersey and the first congressional race in New Jersey under the Trump administration 2.0. That tells us a lot. In terms of this Queens, New York-based assembly district, because all the candidates are very similar, it's really more about local issues. It is not really a reflective of where the state of New York is right now.
And how closely do you think Albany is watching the results of these special elections? I mean, especially when it comes to what Governor Kathy Hochul might be able to maybe get done this year.
Well, I would say this is the impact here is more on the local community and organizations. Which groups in Astoria supported Diana? Which groups in Astoria supported Rana, for example? Simply because most Democratic races are between a generational fight or someone who's supposedly more moderate versus someone who's supposedly more progressive. This race, all of the candidates are very, very progressive and have positioned themselves as allies of Mayor Mandani. So it's less about what is the state of play in Albany. You would assume that most, if not all, of the candidates would co-sponsor sign on to similar pieces of legislation. All of them have said they support Mayor Mamdani's signature proposals on universal childcare, on taxing the wealthy, which is what gets done in Albany. It is, again, much more of a reflection of which neighborhood groups in Astoria, Queens, have more pull in this race.
Right. And again, for anybody watching this right now, seats are being filled for the 36th Assembly District in Queens, which is Zoran Mamdani's old seat, the 74th Assembly District in Manhattan, which was Harvey Epstein, the 47th Senate District in Manhattan, which was Brad Hoylman Siegel. But okay, these are solidly Democratic districts. So does this kind of mean the fight is within the party?
Yeah, so I'll say this. When we get to the fall of this year, there are going to be a lot of contested seats between Democrats and Republicans, especially in Long Island, especially in the Hudson Valley, and some regions of upstate New York. There's also governor's race, which Governor Hochul is projected to be the front runner. Although Republican Bruce Blakeman, he's trying to have a go at it. However, in New York City, in these areas of Manhattan and Western Queens, these are Democratic strongholds. So it is presumed that the Democrat will represent the seat. In the assembly in Manhattan, it's going to be Keith Powers, not a very competitive race. Keith has obviously been a long-serving council member before he was term limited. People expect him to be in the assembly. And in the Senate race, people are expecting Eric Botcher, who is a long-serving council member as well, this time on the west side of Manhattan. They are Democrats replacing Democrats. So we are in the point of the year in New York State where it's about which Democrats are going to be in which seats of influence. But as soon as we get past the June Democratic primary, across the state of New York, there will be a lot of contested seats between Democrats and Republicans. And at that point, it is absolutely a reflection of how is New York State responding under this Trump administration.
That makes sense. And Trip, we've talked about who's potentially going to fill Zoran Mamdani's old seat, but let's actually shift and look at what he's done in those first 100 days in office. Obviously, I mean, we're not quite at 100 days yet, if I'm doing math correctly in my head here. But I mean, what have you made from his short amount of time that he's been in office so far?
Yeah. So a couple key points from Mamdani's first month as mayor. We've already known he's a very gifted communicator, putting out very charismatic videos, frequently communicating in pressers. He has continued that from the campaign trail now that he is running the city from City Hall. He, in the most recent snowstorm, I do give him positive reviews simply based on the fact that he was over communicative. He constantly communicated, did pressers, did videos, did emails, did tweets to New Yorkers about the state of city agencies addressing the snowstorm. He also, and I say this as a compliment, in terms of managerial style, he seems to give the agencies a lot of deference. He seems to be a Bloombergian type of manager. I mean this as a compliment in terms of appointing deputy mayors, appointing commissioners, and letting the experts really do their business of running some of these day-to-day aspects of city government. In this case, he has empowered sanitation and the Office of Emergency Management to really, take care of this snowstorm. And that's what we want to see in a good leader.
Right. And, there were a couple other issues that were kind of top of mind to him in his campaign and after he became mayor. I mean, what do you expect in terms of policy changes or anything to happen in this first 100 days of him in office? I mean, what do you think is next?
So he's been very smart to build alliances across New York State on the issue of universal child care. Many leading Democrats, from Governor Hochul to the Council Speaker Julie Menon, they're not necessarily progressives. They have said that they look forward to partnering with Mayor Mamdani on the issue of expanding universal child care for New York families. And many parents know childcare is getting more and more expensive. So look, having city and state government picking up the tab on this is something that's going to benefit the lives of a lot of working New Yorkers and New York families. It's very smart. Where you see a point where there's going to be some level of advocacy is going to be on what Mayor Mandani campaigned on, which is taxing the wealthy. So far, the governor has not explicitly supported that. She has supported raising taxes on corporations to get more revenue, to fill some of these budget gaps in the New York City budget, for example, potentially the state budget as well. So that is a point. I would not say it's a point of contention, but it is a point where for Mayor Mandani, he campaigned as a candidate on raising taxes on the wealthy. I personally do like it when candidates, when they go into office, they don't flip-flop. They are consistent, authentic. They are governing the way they campaign. That's what the voters wanted them, to do in office. And, Governor Hochul is navigating this as well in her own way, simply because she is up for re-election in her own re-election year. So that's something that we should all watch in terms of how our city and state leaders, they navigate this issue of the wealth tax.
Sure. And listen, is there anything you've been doing, working in the political sphere for a while? Has anything that's happened in this first month of Mamdani being mayor surprised you? Is anything on the horizon maybe surprising you?
So I've worked on campaigns and politics for over 14 years. In my day job, my political strategy firm, we've helped elect over 50 candidates to office. Look, politics is something where you can see the unexpected on any given day. But what I will say about this is, in the first month of Mayor Mamdani's administration, you've seen a remarkably good working relationship with the governor. As New Yorkers, we don't always see this. Just a few years ago, then Mayor de Blasio, then Governor Cuomo had a famously contentious relationships. They seemingly had a political contest, rivalry every other week on important issues and on very petty issues. And it seemed to really detract from providing service to New Yorkers. We don't see that with Mandani and Hochul. So I am hoping to see the strong partnership continue.
All right. Well, Trip, it's always great having you on. Thank you so much for joining tonight. Again, we just touched on Mamdani's first month in office and what the future could look like for him over the next couple of months. And of course, the special elections going on tonight around New York City. Again, thank you so much for coming on and